when correction is done well, it is a form of guidance. It can steer you in a direction that you need to go. Let me just lay a foundation tonight. By the time I start talking good, y'all gonna be blown away. It can steer you in the direction of where you need to go when correction is established properly in your life. What's the most important time frame? The most important time frame is from the ages of 3 to 8. I want you just in the corner of your journal to write ages 3 to 8 and just circle it. Why? Because the form of correction you receive from approximately the ages 2 to 3 to the ages 7 to 8ish is fundamental in establishing a foundation for how you process, or not only how you come into your attachment style, but how you process things like correction into the future. If you're a subscriber, I went through about 7 or 8 wounds that will help you heal your overall attachment style. So when I write this book on attachment style, and it's really going to be about healing your attachment style, I'm not going to do an education on attachment styles. There'll be a little section in there that talks about them. I'm going to talk about how to heal them. When I write this book, I'm going to walk through those attachment style wounds, or those wounds that can heal your attachment style, and correction is one of them. Why? Many of you don't realize that unhealthy connections to proper correction as a child, yeah, already, as a child, has severe implications for you as adults. Now, healthy correction can be a form of guidance. Watch this. But unhealthy connection can be misinterpreted as things like rejection, shame, and inadequacy. Rejection, shame, and inadequacy. It can be other things. Let's just deal with this on a very micro level tonight. If guidance is not given well, if correction is not given well, it can create what's called a correction wound, because that wound manifests itself as things like rejection, shame, inadequacy. And I want to put this real simply. When correction in your life was things like harsh, when correction was unpredictable, when correction was inconsistent, y'all should be supporting this show. This is going to be a killer. This might be live of the year. When correction was harsh, when correction was things like inconsistent, when correction was things like withheld, didn't even happen at all, when correction was unpredictable, that distorted your relationship with guidance. And I want to be specific about guidance here, because there is a dotted line connection between proper correction and guidance. That when proper correction was extended to you as a child or growing up or later in your life, that proper guidance by default helps you to embrace guidance and correction, and 2 other things I want to talk about. Let me give you those 2 things. If correction is harsh, unpredictable, or withheld, it can distort your relationship with guidance. And not only distort your relationship with guidance, it will cause you to struggle with 2 things. You ready? First thing, feedback. Oh my God. Uh-oh. Here comes the bloodbath. Feedback. Would y'all believe me if I told you that many of you are struggling in your relationships now? Romantically, friendship, family relationships, work relationships, friend relationships. What? Many of you are struggling in your relationships right now, not because you bad people, but because you never received a proper dose of healthy correction in the form of guidance as a child. That as an adult, even if you have somebody in your life who means well, who attempts to give you guidance and correct you and instruct you, you run from things like feedback. Oh my God. You fight things like feedback. I've had to tell quite a few clients over the last 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know what's going on, what's in the air, but I've had to tell quite a few clients over the last 2 to 3 weeks. Even in this counseling, therapy, coaching space, some of y'all need to stick with these counselors, therapists, and coaches that ain't going to give you hard feedback unless you want to address your correction wound. I've said this a million times and I'm going to say it again. If you're in therapy and you've been in therapy for 10 years working on the same problem, something wrong. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. I don't care who you've been talking to. Oh my God. And here's the truth. A lot of these therapists, counselors, and coaches go light on you because most of you have correction wounds and you can't take the harsh truth. Even if that truth is packaged in nice words. Even if that truth is packaged in a soft tone. You miss the message because your correction wound is flaming. And many of you have correction wounds, which is why you struggle in things like direct counseling and therapy and coach. You struggle in relationships with people who want to give you feedback. You don't want to receive feedback, you just want to give the feedback. And many of you grew up so wounded from a correction standpoint that all you got was corrected, and maybe you were corrected so harshly that when you became an adult, you couldn't take being corrected by nobody else. Oh my God. And I'm telling you now, if you don't heal your correction wound, whether you're anxious or avoidant, we're going to get to that in a second. Whether you are anxious or avoidant, if you don't heal your correction wound, ain't no need of you praying for a secure mate. Because let me tell you what a secure mate ain't going to do. A secure mate will not hold back feedback to spare your feelings. Oh my God. As a secure man, let me just go on and put it out there. If I have to restrain myself from offering feedback in a relationship that I'm in to spare your feelings, we ain't compatible. Oh my God. Go let somebody else do it. And this is how I know many of you don't want the secure mate you think you do. Thank you, Peaches. I appreciate your support. First one supporting tonight. Y'all better get this support up. My subscribers are chomping at the bits for this one, like alligators in a swamp. This is how I know many of you don't want the secure partner you got. Because when you ask a secure partner for feedback, they have no problem giving it to you. Now, here's the caveat. You can't claim to be secure, and you can't take feedback either. Because a lot of y'all are claiming you secure because you're great at giving feedback until the feedback comes back at you, and now you got a problem. Mm-mm. 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 You ain't as secure as you think you are. I got a video coming out about this next week. And no, it's going to probably be week after next. Now I'm going to this different format. Probably week after next. You are not, well, I told a client who's going to let me share that she ain't as secure as she thinks she is. And some of y'all ain't secure as you think you are. Because it's one thing to give feedback, it's another thing to be able to receive it as well. So when correction is harsh, unpredictable, withheld, inconsistent, it can distort our relationship with two things. One, feedback. Number two, accountability. 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 And this is why, especially in the context of attachment styles, where we specifically tend to deal with things like relationship dynamics, this is why those of you that are parents right now, the best thing you can do is raise your children with accountability and responsibility. You know, I had some idiot in one of my comments saying that my children were weak because they, what was it? They were so wise that you couldn't be wise and strong at the same time. I really don't know where some of you folks were found. That was the comment I think I responded to. That kids who are wise are going to automatically be weak because you can't be wise and strong. Parents, let me help you. If you are parenting a child, if you big auntie or big uncle, let me give you some advice. You better teach your child how to have accountability and responsibility. The best gift you can give them is to learn how to hold them accountable. And we don't do this. And so what happens? Then you get grown, you get cute, fellas, you get handsome, you get these things, you get out here in the dating scene. And the minute somebody has to correct you or address something with you that is not right or correct or inappropriate, you completely fold. Why? Because the inappropriate or incorrect or inadequate guidance you received as a child has wounded you so that now you have a problem with feedback and accountability. And I'm going to tell you this. If y'all don't believe it, if you're on this live tonight or watching the replay, if it happens to stay up, because at this rate it ain't. If you're listening live tonight, listen to me. If you struggle with feedback and accountability, I want you to write this down. I can almost guarantee you that we can trace it back to you receiving guidance or correction that was harsh, unpredictable, inconsiderate, or maybe didn't even exist at all. Oh my God. See, this is the crazy part, right? In this space, I have to tell clients, I've had to remind a few clients over the last couple of weeks because they're not used to this kind of pressure. So I told them, look, I'm not for everybody. There's a whole lot of counselors and therapists out here that's dying to get clients. Go find somebody that'll let you sit in your chair and talk all day and not be held accountable. This, not that. My daddy was my 7th and 8th grade coach, 9th through 12th grade coach, assistant principal, teacher, all of that stuff. He played no games. We had a healthy relationship with correction. It wasn't harsh. It was consistent. You knew it was coming. It was also grounded in love. You know what that taught me? The art of telling people the truth in love. Because here's the thing. You can correct anybody, especially if you're in a position to help. You can correct anybody and help anybody. For the most part, if it comes from a place of love, unless their correction wound is so glaring, unless they are so wounded from a feedback and accountability standpoint, that as nice as you put it, they still won't get it. And that happens to me in this seat. I'll be honest with y'all. I have run across people in this seat. It don't matter how nice you put it, how direct you do it, how calm your voice is. Some people are so wounded from a correction standpoint, from a feedback and accountability standpoint, they've never been held accountable a day in their lives, that you could say it nice and whisper it. It ain't gonna matter. And I want you to put this in the chat and put this in your journal right now. Until you heal your correction wound, you're not ready to heal in general. A correction wound is one of the few wounds that you must heal in order to be healed. If you don't heal the correction wound, you will never heal. I don't care who you are. If you don't heal your relationship with feedback and accountability, you will never heal. Doc, you can't say never. Never. You will never heal. Doc, never's a long time. It is. And I hate to break the news to many of you, but some of you are struggling on your healing journey because you have a sincerely bad correction wound. Thank y'all for the support. It's coming through. Y'all support the show. You gonna want this one. You will want this one again. You're gonna want this one again. And I'm just getting started. We're going to talk about how to heal it, but let me lay the foundation. That's the problem. Let me just say this, y'all, and I'm not being funny. I'm really not. I'm not being funny. I talk about this on my video next week. Some of y'all, that's the other thing. Some of y'all are so interested in tools. All you want is a tool from a therapist, a counselor. All you want is a tool so that you can try to work on that tool to try to feel better. Let me tell you something. You can get all the tools you want in the world until you break up the foundation. You ain't doing nothing but building on stuff that's got cracks in it. And I'm going to tell you why some of you are in a hurry to get tools. Some of you are in a hurry to get tools because you don't want to tear up the foundation. You don't want to go through the pain of deconstructing your life. You don't want to go through the pain of deconstructing your values. You don't want to go through the pain of deconstructing everything that has been built crooked in your life so it can be built straight so that when you get these tools, you can build on a solid foundation. No, y'all want to skip by that. That's akin to skipping across the grass instead of walking on the sidewalk. Oh my God. I see it every day. It's like pouring it. This kind of talk is like pouring water on gremlins. I just look at the comments sometimes, and you can tell people that are very uncomfortable with this. Well, then, Doc, how do I fix it? Doc, can you stop talking about that and just give me some solution? No, because you still got cracks in your foundation. Oh my God. Sometimes the foundation has to be broken down completely so it can be built up. Y'all stop trying to build over cracked foundations and heal your relationship with feedback and accountability. Now, how do we see this manifested? Let me give you some hints. If you, as a child or as a young person or a young adult, have ever internalized correction as things like I'm bad instead of I made a mistake. Y'all writing this down? Write this down. If you've ever internalized correction as things like I'm bad instead of I made a mistake, or I was so stupid instead of I didn't know any better and I had to learn. If you've ever had to internalize correction that way, it's a really good chance that as a child, as a young person, maybe even as a young adult, you have improperly internalized correction. You have improperly received correction. And you want to know how this materializes? You know how correction wound shows up in your life? Through your attachment style. Let me give you some hints. If you're anxious and you have a correction wound, let me give you a list of things you might do. Go ahead and make your list. Just write anxious in the top of your page, put a colon there, put a line under it, and I want you to write a couple of things. Let me give you some stuff. If you're anxious and you got an a correction wound, you may not even know it. But let me give you some signs that you do. Number one, anxious people within a correction wound over apologize. Oh my God. Anxious people with a correction wound will apologize over and over and over again. Why? Because when you're anxious, you don't like to feel like somebody might be upset with you. You don't like to feel like somebody is going to be mad at you. Watch this. You don't like the tension of offense. Oh my God. Anxious people don't like the tension of offense. They would rather over apologize than to just feel the discomfort of offense. That in fact, when you have offended somebody or somebody has offended you, there is a period of discomfort you got to sit through. And anxious people don't like to sit with it. Anxious people don't like to sit with the fence. They don't like to sit with the discomfort of offense. So they will try to rectify that discomfort by over apologizing. They will apologize 7, 8, 9 times for an offense that has long happened. And when you do that to a secure person will listen to you once, they might listen twice. By the third time, they're going to say, please cut it out. You know why? Because anxious people over apologize, not only to minimize the discomfort of the offense, they do it as a sense of false humility. It makes them feel like they are being the bigger person. It makes them feel like they are doing the right thing. It makes them feel like they are going above and beyond to make a situation feel better. When in actuality, the reverse is happening. That when you apologize 7 times for an offense when they heard you the first time, it starts to feel like something that you're doing to make you feel better instead of making them feel better. Oh my God. Ain't a lot of notes tonight. Y'all must be writing. Y'all there? If you there, I want you to type levels in the chat. This is making sense? False humility. I told the subscribers about a story. I had a boss who really was a game changer in my life and my career. When I was going through a period of my life where I was anxious, I would apologize for things 3, 4 times. And she finally was just like, after that second, Zeb, stop. Stop. Why? Why? I mean, I just want to make sure people know I'm upset. So we heard you the first time, is what she would say. We heard you the first time. And at this point, it sounds like a fake attempt at humility. She was right. And that fake sense or attempt at humility is really the reflection of you trying to make you feel better, not them. Because the people you'd apologize to, especially if they're secure, they heard you the first time, they moved on. But when you're anxious, you will continue to apologize to them, trying to get rid of the anxiety inside of you. And it doesn't work that way. It makes it worse. And it annoys them. Over apologizing annoys the securely offended. And it makes you more anxious. Y'all not writing this down. Oh my God. Over apologizing annoys the secure and makes your anxiety worse. Over apologizing ignores the secure or annoys the secure, makes your anxiety worse. Oh, it ain't a lot of levels tonight. Y'all either really just not tuned in or y'all really writing. There ain't a lot of levels tonight. Are y'all writing? Put a 1 in the chat if you write. I just need to make sure y'all alive. Decent numbers. We got to get more on TikTok. I'm kind of banned over there. I don't know why. I ain't do nothing tonight. Y'all here? Put a 1 in the chat. You there? Yeah, y'all must be writing tonight. So that'll give you time to just hit. I just need to know you're there. That's what happens when you're anxious. You know what? The only people that like your over apologizing are broken avoidance. Uh-oh. Oh my God. I'm going to get to that in a second. A broken avoidant will listen to that. Because in a weird, creepy way, an avoidant gets their rocks off by hearing you say sorry, sorry, sorry over again. And God knows, don't let that person be an avoidant and have a stench of narcissism in them. Y'all know I don't like labels a whole lot because most of y'all don't even know what they are and can't define it. But if you got a legit narcissist on your hand that's avoidant, they'll listen to you apologize all day and get their rocks off while you do it. Oh my God. I have to say that for the subscriber space because most of that will go over y'all's heads. An avoidant loves apologies because it makes them feel like you're chasing them. And the more you apologize, at first they think it's real cute, and then they'll run as you apologize. But they're going to keep looking back to make sure you keep apologizing and let you know that they're still there. So anxious people, as a result of this poor connection to correction, will over apologize. Two, people pleasers. Y'all should have known this was coming. Show me an anxiously attached person with a correction wound, and I'll show you a people pleaser. Which means if you're a people pleaser, somewhere along the lines, you might have a problem with correction. Because sometimes the anxious will attempt to people please and bend over backwards to people please to avoid being held accountable, to avoid being given feedback, to avoid having to hear the harsh truth, to avoid being told the truth. A broken, anxious person will apologize and try to get under your skin and be in your skin. I've even seen cases where anxious people with correction wounds are also very clingy. I don't have time to deal with this, but let me just say this because y'all not ready for what I'm about to say. Hear me out. Anxious people can also be very clingy if they have a correction wound. And so sometimes the clinginess is a sign of a correction wound. Not all the time, but sometimes. Why? Because when things get tough between that person and whomever they're connected to, they will use being clingy as a way to run away from the stress and the angst of things like offense and pain, heartbreak. This is why an anxious person, if they feel like someone's going to leave them, instead of feeling the pain of being left, they will cling harder. And that clinginess is connected to, in many ways, the fear of feedback. I don't want to be with you. I don't want to do this again. I don't want to be in this anymore. You no longer, this no longer been. They don't want to hear that. So to avoid that, they will grab you tighter and squeeze you tighter. Why? Because in their little minds, they believe that if they cling more, they might be able to get out of hearing that feedback. You're just delaying it. Oh my God. This making sense? Let me give you a third sign that you might have a correction wound. Sign one, and there are many signs. This is obviously an overview. There are many signs. Sign one, over apologizing. Sign two, people pleasing. Sign three, this is going to shock you. You ready? Poor emotional control. Poor emotional control. Watch this. One sign that you could not only be anxious, but you could be anxious with a correction wound is when you try to cry your way out of stuff. Oh my God. When you try to cry your way out of stuff. Thank you, Brother Cam. Always good to see fellas support. I appreciate that, brother. Had a lot of men in Charlotte, by the way. I think I have to do this dating thing real soon, hook some of y'all up. A lot of men in Charlotte. Some of men was there. Some of you women had lines of men. It was a lot of men in Charlotte. I got to figure out this speed dating event thing for healed people. I don't know how I'm going to do it. Listen, some of you, we know you're anxious because of your poor emotional control. You ever been around a person who tries to cry themselves out of everything? You correct them, and then all of a sudden they just burst out into tears. Let me tell you something. A lot of times that crying, is to avoid the pain of correction. It's to avoid the pain of feedback. Now listen, there ain't nothing wrong with expressing emotion. Don't y'all take this sound bite and run with it. Get the context. There's nothing wrong with expressing emotion, but let me tell you something. When you express emotion to avoid correction, you dysfunctional. Oh God, that was a bar. Record that now. That was salad worthy. When you express emotion to avoid correction, that's dysfunction. Expressing emotion to avoid correction is dysfunction. It's the bar of the night. Expressing emotion to avoid correction is dysfunction. Some of y'all got to stop trying to cry your way out of stuff. Now, good question on TikTok. I mean, Instagram. I won't call your handle. I'll just read the question. Is this applicable for children because my 10-year-old does this so bad? Oh my God, this is a good question. This is why the future of my work is with kids. I hate to break this to y'all, but in a couple of years, I'm going to be transitioning. The future of my work is to teach this to kids. I'm going to tell you why. Because when you correct the kids' emotions or a child's emotions and teach them emotional control, you change the generation. That's a great question. It can be true for children if proper forms of guidance have not been established with them, which means, y'all, the best way to get your child out of that is to raise them with balance. This is where I'm about to get in trouble. I'm so glad that question came. No, thank you for asking. Raise your kids with balance. You know what creates children like that who just drop, who just cry at the drop of a hat or cry at the attempt to avoid correction? Is when you've either raised them too light or you've raised them too hard. Oh my God. When you've raised them too light or raised them too hard, it can cause them to divert to poor emotional control, in many ways intentionally, to avoid the pain of feedback. And this is why, when I've had to correct mine, because my kids are good kids, I've seen this. I can even take your question and expand it this way. Because there's a fine line here between, watch this, crying because you want to avoid correction and crying as a child out of insensitivity or poor sensitivity. Sometimes this is so good. Sometimes hypersensitivity in a child is a sign of a few things. Number one, it's a sign you might have a good child. Hypersensitivity in a child, not an adult. Well, maybe in an adult too. I gotta process that. Hypersensitivity in a child, especially, is a sign that you might have a good child. And I'll give you an example of this. When you have corrected a child and you correct them in balance, which means you ain't just screaming at them. I'm not talking about that kind of correction that creates hypersensitivity. Remember, this is hypersensitivity in a child through balance correction. Hypersensitivity in a child through balance correction. This ain't in my notes, I'm adding it. Through balance correction is a sign you may have a good child, which means you have corrected your child in a balanced way. You come down on them when you got to. You hug them and hug her and kiss them when you have to. You don't come down so harsh that they feel like they're stupid. God knows you don't call them stupid. Yes, it's 2025, and some of you raggedy parents are calling your kids stupid. And yes, I'm calling you raggedy. And if I knew it, I would call DSS. Oh my God. This thing going. Anybody that calls their kids stupid is a piss poor parent. And I don't care if your mama raised you that way. I don't care if your pastor raised you that way. I don't care who raised you that way. If you call your child names to correct them, you're a piss poor parent. Piss poor. I'm talking call social services. 1-800-child abuse. Because you don't have to do all of that. You can be hard on your parents or on your children and be balanced. But a hypersensitive child that has received correction balanced, which means they've been corrected, and you get tough on them if you have to, and in the same breath still squeeze them and love them and tell them, listen, I love you, I believe in you. If that child is hypersensitive, it's probably a sign that they're a pretty decent child. How? How do you define decent, Doc? In the sense of being aware of right and wrong. Those children will be aware of right and wrong. It won't make them perfect, but they will have a different level of consciousness when they do wrong. Their conscious level will be much higher. Why? Because you raise them with balance, and their hypersensitivity is proof of their awareness. Their hypersensitivity is proof of their awareness. Is this making sense? So if that's the case, then my friend that asked the question on IG, it may not be necessarily a bad thing. But here's where the balance comes in. And then I'm going to move on from this point. That was a really good question. Let me just finish it, though. Here's where it can be a bad thing. If you don't do it with balance and your kid is hypersensitive, they are, without a doubt, a lot of times trying to do that to get out of the feedback and accountability. Let me give you the greatest example I can give you. I've been in stores where parents have gotten on their kids and the kids just fall out on the floor. Just fall out on the floor and start crying, just pitching a fit. And what does the parent do? The parent loses sight of what the kid did wrong and immediately starts to try to do what? Get them off the floor. So that parent's attention shifts from their behavior to their actions. Why is that important? That's important because it then subconsciously teaches that child that the best way for me to get out of correction is to act up. And so when you let your kids fall out on the floor, and then you shift your focus from their behavior, what they did wrong, to how they're showing off, and you stop addressing what they did wrong, and you focus on how they showed off, you are furthering the correction wound. And if they're anxious, they will use their emotions to avoid feedback. Listen, y'all, I hope this made sense. If it did, I want you to type church in the comments with 3 R's. And then I want you to remember you've got 2 jobs. 1, be better today than what you were yesterday. And 2, don't forget what I told you.